Good morning. Welcome to the Minnesota Senate Taxes Committee. It is Thursday, April 9th. It is 8:39 a.m. You have before you the minutes from April 8th. Are there corrections or additions? Seeing none, the minutes stand approved as presented. The first bill, Senate File 4934, Senator Port's not able to be with us. Senator Putnam is a co-author, and he will be presenting that bill later in the agenda when he presents 4722. So we will begin then with Senate File 4690, which is the Department of Revenue's policy and technical bill. We had added an amendment yesterday to make sure we had everything together. So Senator Housechild moves that Senate File 4690 as amended be taken from the table. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails. Senate File 4690 as amended is before us. Ms. Bears, welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, for the record, my name is Joanna Bears. I'm the Legislative Director at the Department of Revenue. I want to say, before we start, I want to express our appreciation to you, Madam Chair, for authoring this bill and the other co-signers on the bill as well. I also want to thank your committee staff for their work. They are wonderful to work with, and we really appreciate and value their expertise. They've been great partners along the way. This year, our policy and technical bill is small, but it provides meaningful improvements for taxpayers. We focused on creating efficiencies, reducing administrative challenges, and cleaning up statute by removing outdated programs and obsolete language. We have shared this language with interested parties and have not heard any feedback or concerns with the bill. However, we do understand at any point if there's a question or concern that is raised and we are not able to resolve it, that we will remove the provision from this year's bill and look at it for next year. I'm going to start with the amended language that was added yesterday, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague to start with Article 1. So the amended language is, if you're following along on the bill summary, it is the last item under Article 3. And Senator Nelson, you may be familiar with this because you were a great leader on getting the original language passed in 2021. But in beginning 2026, the federal government will require anyone with access to federal taxpayer information to undergo a national criminal history background check, which includes fingerprinting. When the Office of Legislative Auditor conducts its annual reviews and other work at the Department of Revenue, its staff will have access to federal taxpayer information. Therefore, they will need to be added to this, this language in order to get those background checks completed. And without the language, the Department of Revenue would then be the ones that would have to do the background checks for the employees. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I know Legislative Auditor Randall is also here, and she can be used as a resource as well. That concludes that item. I can pass it over to my colleague, Mr. Severson, to go through the Article 1.
Thank you, Ms. Bears. Welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Steve Severson. I'm an attorney with the Department of Revenue, and I focus my attention on the corporate franchise tax and mining taxes. The department has one income tax proposal this year, so I can be brief. It appears in Article 1 of the Policy and Technical Bill. Section 1 would amend Minnesota Statute 289A.08, Subdivision 7. Subdivision 7 permits partnerships to file composite returns on behalf of non-resident partners under certain circumstances. Currently, Minnesota does not permit partnerships to file composite returns for non-resident partners when they are reporting gains on installment sales. Instead, non-resident partners must report those gains on a separately filed income tax return. Under this amendment, non-resident partners would be permitted to report gains on installment sales using a composite return. In doing so, the non-resident partner would be required to recognize all of the gain on an accelerated basis, meaning in the first year following the installment sale. Sections 2 and 3 implement this change in the use of the composite return. Section 2 would amend 290.01 subdivision 19, which defines net income. And Section 3 would amend 290.013, which addresses the recognition of gains on installment sales. All of these amendments would be effective for taxable years beginning after December 31, 2025. And that concludes my presentation of Article 1.
Yep, Mr. Severson, I think it would be helpful to review what is meant, because some of our members might not know, what is meant by a composite return.
Yes. So the department, many years ago, created an option for partnerships and candidly also S corporations and in some cases trusts and estates to file returns on behalf of their non-resident owners. And that was done as a convenience to the non-resident because in those instances, in many instances, they don't have no other income source to Minnesota. So in a prior life, I used to be a partner in a law firm. I'd get a sheet that says, do you want to report income to Georgia? I'd say yes, and I would ask the partnership to report my income to Georgia. And it's a convenience. So what we're doing as part of this proposal is extending that convenience in the case of an installment sale.
And Mr. Stevenson, that has no effect whatsoever on taxes due, correct?
Has no effect?
No effect. Reporting it that way in a composite return does not have any effect on the liability of the taxpayer.
Absolutely not. It's simply that the partnership pays it on behalf of the owner.
Thank you. Continue.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jacob Weindling, and I'm an attorney at the Department of Revenue. I focus on property taxes, and I'll be summarizing for you provisions of Article 2, the property tax article. All of the proposed sections in that article will be effective the day following final enactment. Sections 1 and 2 are concerned with the expired property tax programs. Section 1 amends 2 statutes to remove references to expired valuation exclusions, which are themselves repealed in the repealer in Section 6 at the end of this article. Section 2, beginning on the end of page 7, deletes an expired provision of the Green Acres program. Sections 3 to 5 are concerned with information not required by the Commissioner. Sections 3 and 4 on pages 8 and 9 remove requirements that cities send a copy of local ordinances to the Commissioner of Revenue, as the Commissioner does not use the information for any purpose. An associated statute regarding this transmission is also repealed in Section 6. Similarly, Section 5 on page 9 removes the requirement that cities send the Commissioner their tax increment financing plans, which the Commissioner also does not use. And lastly, Section 6 on page 10 is the repealer, and in addition to the repeals I've discussed already, this section also repeals references to other expired property tax programs and aids, and it also repeals several provisions that govern the procedures persons must make to report their personal property to assessors, but personal property is exempt in Minnesota except in discrete circumstances under which assessment is governed by other provisions. And these procedures are thus defunct. And if there are no questions, I will also move to Article 3 to describe the sections concerning the expired job opportunity building program, or JOBZ, before handing things over to my colleague, Jim Jordan. All right. JOBZ was enacted in 2003 with a statutory expiration date of December 31st, 2015. 14 of the miscellaneous articles, 18 provisions, are statutory cleanup needed because of JOBZ's 2015 statutory expiration. The 14 sections at issue are 1 to 5, 7 to 10, 12 to 14, and 16 to 17. The last qualifying exemptions under the JOBZ program applied to taxes payable in 2016. The program has been expired for a decade and has no remaining beneficiaries or other taxation operation. These 14 sections update Department of Revenue, Department of Education, and Department of Employment and Economic Development statutes to remove statutes that implement the program and amend statutes that cross-reference the program. The proposed adjustments to the Department of Education and Department of Employment and Economic Development statutes have been approved by those agencies, and those sections would be effective the day following final enactment.
Thank you. Ms. Bayers, was there any program that succeeded the JOBZ ones that had similar purposes, or did we just move on?
Madam Chair, not that I'm aware of, no.
Anybody else recall what, why that program came to an end? Senator Nelson, do you remember? Just curious.
Madam Chair, are you talking about JOBZ back from the Palenti administration? That was
What he
quite
just
some
talked
time ago.
about. From 2003 to, and then it ended in 2015.
Yes. Madam Chair?
Sure.
My recollection, this is way back when I was a House member, so purely memory here, full disclosure, I believe it was just a 12-year program from the get-go.
No, but what did it do?
Oh, what did it do?
Yeah,
Oh,
what was
okay.
it? Yeah.
My full disclosure, that's the recollection from a few years ago. My
Senator
recollection on the JOBZ zones was that those certain zones which qualified based upon certain things, sudden economic unemployment, those type of things, would go to, had the option to not collect certain taxes, and the local entities had to approve that. So the JOBZ zone had a tax advantage by not collecting certain taxes. So in one of those cities, I recall, of course, that involved the school district, for example, and other entities that would be affected. So that's my recollection. Madam Chair, there may be someone here who has
Do
a
you
better
have
memory.
any more details to add to Senator Nelson's explanation?
Madam Chair and Senator Nelson, no, that is my understanding as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Nelson. Okay, please continue.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will turn it over to my colleague, Jim Jordan, to describe the rest of the miscellaneous article.
Morning, Chair
Welcome to
Russ.
the committee, if you would identify yourself for the record.
Morning, Chair Russ, members of the committee. My name is Jim Jordan. I'm also an attorney at the Department of Revenue. I'll be summarizing the final 3 provisions of the miscellaneous article that need to be summarized. Specifically, that's sections 6, 11, and 15 of Article 3. Section 6, which is on page 14, adds a subdivision to a Chapter 270C provision that governs all Department of Revenue criminal investigations. Currently, when multiple criminal violations of tax law occur in more than one county, and the department's criminal division is communicating with county prosecutors about bringing criminal charges, prosecutors are allowed to create efficiencies by consolidating prosecution in one county when it comes to many tax types, including income tax and sales tax. However, prosecutors are not allowed to consolidate prosecution in one county if the criminal tax offenses relate to certain special tax types, including a tax type like tobacco tax. This amendment ensures prosecutors have the option of consolidating cases for all tax types. This section would be effective for criminal offenses committed after July 31st, 2026. Now to Section 11 of the miscellaneous article, which is on page 18. This amendment fixes a statutory cross-reference in a provision that exempts volunteer ambulance services from MinCare tax. The current language incorrectly references a Chapter 144E definition of volunteer. The amendment corrects this by referencing the correct Chapter 144E definition, which is the definition of volunteer ambulance attendant. This amendment is effective the day following final enactment. Now to the final section that needs to be summarized, Section 15, which is on page 21. Section 15 addresses how sales tax collected on auto parts is deposited. After each February forecast, the Commissioner estimates the amount of sales tax collected on auto parts so that the amount can be deposited into dedicated accounts in the next fiscal year. This proposal provides that the Commissioner must update this deposit amount if, after the Commissioner estimates the deposit amount and before July 1st, there's a law change that impacts either 1, the sales tax rate, or 2, the deposit percentages. This section would be effective retroactively from January 1, 2026. And that concludes my remarks and the summary.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and Ms. Bears. Are there questions or comments for the department? Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I noticed on the property tax section, there were reports that the department says they no longer need. Do we know what, can you just tell us what those reports are briefly, and what they were intended for to begin with, and why they're no longer needed?
Chair Rest and Senator Drazkowski. The sections 3 and 4 dealt with ordinances specifically for governing bodies, so cities and towns, and section 5 dealt with tax increment financing plans. Those are still reported under this amendment to the state auditor. As to why they were included in the first place, I will need to get back to you on that, and I can provide you with more information.
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. You know, I'm just speculating, but some of these cities pass more and more fees, and a lot of times without the legislature, maybe you knowing, and it might be beneficial for you to know what they're doing. And I don't know if you've been looking for that in these reports or not, but something to consider, but I look forward to your research. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Bears. Senate File 4690 as amended will be laid over. The next bill, we are embarking on considering some local sales taxes proposals. Senator Koran, Senate File 4724. Welcome to the committee, Senator Koran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, go ahead.
Begin.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to present Senate File 4724 before the Tax Committee today. This is for Taylor's Falls, a local sales tax authorization. And so the bill in itself goes through on the subdivision. It's, again, an authorization for the city to impose a half-cent sales tax for local sales taxes for projects listed. And in subdivision 2, we go through and list the projects. And so $600,000 of it is for community center improvements, $1 million for the Taylor's Falls Riverwalk Improvement and Trail System, and $400,000 for development of Town Square. Section 3, of course, is the bonding authority, authorizes the city to issue the bonds, listed in subdivision 2, if approved by the voters, of course, requiring the referendum. And then the subdivision 4, of course, terminates it after 20 years or when the capital improvement needs and the projects have been funded, whichever comes first. Madam Chair, I'd like to then turn over to the mayor of Taylor's Falls, Brandon Weberg.
Senator Koran, I have a question about the lines 121 and 122. There's a notwithstanding clause there. Ms. Pollack, why?
You got the bill.
Madam Chair, the notwithstanding refers to the definition of capital project. which is a single building or structure, including associated infrastructure, improvements within a single park or named recreation area, or a contiguous trail. I would think that the notwithstanding is there, notwithstanding the definition, because it wasn't clear what was included in a town square, whether it would be a single building or so forth, or whether it was considered a park.
So what would cure the notwithstanding clause?
Madam Chair, what would cure it is if perhaps we had some clarity on what exactly would be included in the town square, the specific types of projects.
Okay. Senator Koran, we may want to revisit that for clarity before it would be considered to be in our omnibus bill. But I'm hoping that would be a non-controversial adjustment to that language.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
By adding what is going to be included, or perhaps, since we are talking about 5 projects as our limit for these local sales taxes, you could find some way to refer to them that would not take more than 2 more project lines. I hope you understand what I'm saying there.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to have Brandon present the mayor present for us.
Okay. Mayor, welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record and understand our concern with notwithstanding clauses. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Brandon Weiberg. I'm the mayor of Taylors Falls, Minnesota. With me today, I have Councilman Robert Bayer as well. We want to thank you for the opportunity today to come to you and share what we've been doing as a community over the last year with extensive process, working with residents, businesses, and our regional partners and stakeholders to talk about the future of Taylors Falls. What I'm presenting today is not just a single project idea. It's a product of nearly a year of the community conversations we've had, conversations about who we are, who we serve, and what we need to do to remain a strong regional partner. Taylors Falls is a small city, but we play a very large regional role in the state of Minnesota. We're a gateway to the national scenic riverway of St. Croix, one of Minnesota's most treasured natural assets. We also are a front door between Minnesota and western Wisconsin, serving residents, visitors, and businesses on both sides of the river. Every year, thousands of people come through Taylors Falls, not just to visit, but to gather, celebrate, and learn and connect. At the center of our activity that we listed is our community center. This building is more than a facility. It's the heart of our community and our region. Originally, it was built in 1902 as a train depot, and it's been in place since then, and it's been a place of our connection. Today, the legacy continues. Our community center hosts many different community events, youth engagements, weddings, family gatherings, guest speakers, cultural events, and countless public meetings and civic discussions. It is where our residents come together, and just importantly, it's where our region comes together. Because of our location and our tourism-driven economy, a significant portion of our activity in Taylors Falls comes from outside of our city. In fact, an analysis we had done shows 40 to 60% of the spending in our community comes outside of our community itself. That means when we invest in infrastructures like our community center, our river walks, our trails, it doesn't just serve our local population, it serves everybody that comes and visits us. Taylors Falls is a community that shows up for others. We support our neighbors, we support regional events, we provide a place for connection that extends far beyond just Taylors Falls population. We are small in size, but we are big-hearted in how we serve. The project ensures that we can continue to support regional tourism, provide gathering space for Minnesotans, Wisconsin residents for the next 100 years, preserve a historic community asset, and invest in a space that brings people together. We thank you for our consideration of the sales tax. We hope that we get an opportunity to let our residents decide if we should move forward with that. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for your emphasis on the regional significance of the projects that you are undertaking with this local sales tax. Appreciate that. Is there a House companion to this bill?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Do you know what it is, Senator Koran? We can
Just
look
looked it up.
but-
Representative Reimer's carrying it.
Reimer?
Reimer, yes. And it is 4701.
Thank you very much. Are there questions, or we'll hear from your, do you want, your council member, Councilmember Bayer, is that correct?
I just wanted to clarify with regard to the town square, we do not anticipate building a building there. The town square would be a connection to the Riverwalk and would probably be a deck structure near the Riverwalk. So it is not a building per se, but a gathering space near the river or over the river.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. You needed to, if you would, identify yourself for the record.
Okay, Robert Bayer, Councilman Taylor's Falls.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Madam Chairman.
And I am asking Senator Nelson and Senator Hemmingson Yeager are the two people who are in charge of overseeing our, because we have so many of them, it's kind of like a subcommittee of local sales tax proposals. So they're going to be taking note of what you just said and how it meets our guidelines. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two quick questions. They have to do with the community center improvements at your Project 1. Regional, I appreciate also that description of how they are regional. I have a question about it's a 1902 building, you said, a train depot. That's older than this Capitol. And I'm just curious if you could also, I think it's important to maybe, what are those community center regional improvements that you're looking to accomplish with the 600,000?
Senator
Mayor?
Nelson. Oh.
Thank you. Go ahead.
To the chair.
Madam Chair, thank you. Great question. It's what we're looking for. We have a lot of people come from all over our region that want to utilize the community center for many different events. And right now, being a 1902 building, we're running into a lot of issues where we can't keep up with the current volume that we have. And we don't want to destroy the historic nature of such an old building, but we want to make sure that they can utilize it for the events they want to. And a lot of our local businesses are actually wanting to do bring events in. We have a lot of wineries. We have 2 ski resorts in our area that want to hold weddings. They want to have a place for people that can gather when it's not in season. And so we're really looking to give them a place to go because we don't have a lot of places in our region right now that could do that.
Functional improvements.
Functional improvements, we need to make it accessible. The basement, there's some stairways in there that probably need to be, more functional for our handicapped friends. We want to make sure that they can enjoy it as well. We also have a kitchen that is very, very old that needs to be redone so that these events can happen safely. And then as far as the structural part of the building, the outside, needs to have good paint. We have to watch a lot of what we do because it is a historical building. So that's, very key to us, and we want to make sure we do it properly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Anything further, Senator Coran?
No, Madam Chair, we appreciate your time. And, from Taylor's Falls perspective, too, we also house with the gateway to Interstate Park, one of the, if not the busiest state park in the state as well. And so Taylor's Falls is really the hub. When you talked about the town square and the walkways, those are kind of the gateway and accessibility to the state park and the rest of the trail system in that community as well. So, and we
Senator-
appreciate your time, Madam Chair.
Senator Coran and gentlemen, it is a lovely city. And,
We
you
love
should
it as
be
well.
very, very proud of it. We're going to lay over Senate File 4724 with the proviso that we're going to be looking at a more specific definition in terms of that notwithstanding clause. And we we've never had something that was like half a building, but, that you, and you refer to the deck. But we'll see if that can be managed here. And if not, if it doesn't really fit, that particular project would be removed, but the other ones would go forward, just to let you know, because they do meet the guidelines. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Madam Chair, and thank you,
Madam
committee.
Chair. Thank you.
Next, we have Senator Lieske. On behalf of the city of Northfield, 4748.
Madam Chair.
Welcome to the committee, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is my first time in front of taxes, so looking forward to getting to present. Getting to the file, Senate File 4748 consists of a bill asking for the state to approve a local area sales tax. Going through the bill, subdivision 1 is defining that sales tax as 1/2 of 1%. Subdivision 2 is going to contain the use section, which is going to be $2.8 million for the local library. It will also contain $2.8 million for the community resource center and $7.5 million for the betterment of the riverfront parks area, as well as $13.1 million for bonding. The subdivision 4 is the termination in which the taxes would terminate. It looks like 20 years or when the city council would approve an ordinance to do the termination as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? First of all, for Senator Lieske. Then we will proceed to your testifier. And it is Ben Martig, if that's correct. Welcome to the committee. He is the city administrator for the city of Northfield. Welcome to the committee, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, our three projects that we're proposing have been unanimously supported by our city council. I'll go through the three projects that we're proposing. The first one is a library project, as our senator said. Northfield's library has been recently recognized nationally as one of the best libraries in the United States. It's within our historic, federally designated historic district. We have quite a draw within the region for visitors to our library and produce quite a bit out of a very small library. Unfortunately, we're experiencing challenges. Most of the expenses are going to site improvements around accessibility. We have crumbling stairs on the outside with, it's on a slope, so we've had tree loss related to some weather and pattern changes, and bus pickup accessibility, then some interior improvements with that project. The second project is the Community Resource Center. That was approved by voters in the mid-90s with a strong support. It is a resource hub for government and nonprofits in Northfield, serving the broader region. So it includes, City of Northfield has some library services. Rice County provides a number of outreach services at the building. We have early childhood with the Head Start programming, senior center, food shelf provisions, which has certainly been a huge demand recently, and workforce center support, as well as higher education, remote access that community members can participate in our state college system in Northfield through virtual participation. And so the building is aging, and so there is HVAC replacement improvements and some improvements into the interior spaces of some of the other sites that are part of that. And then some energy improvements that we're looking at with the project as well. The third one is a park project. We have a series of parks that we're designating as the Cannon River Regional Park that we have as part of that park. For example, Northfield hosts one of the largest community festivals. We have over 200,000 people visit at our Defeat of Jesse James Day every year. We have some stairs that are crumbling that are creating safety concerns for Northfielders and visitors to our historic district. And then bathroom improvements is one of the main things. We're looking at refurbishing some bathrooms near Veterans Park that we have. Also looking at constructing new restrooms to serve the downtown. These old buildings in our historic district are very difficult to retrofit for restrooms, and so there's been a lot of interest by our business community to have public restrooms available for visitors to be able to use. So those are probably the meat of the park-related improvements that we have with that project that we're looking at.
Thank you very much. Just to reiterate, in the 7-county area, parks projects are not permitted because there are additional or alternative funds that are not available to, from Met Council, et cetera, Metro Parks, that are not available to communities outside of the 7-county area. So that's why this restoration or improvement of the parks area meets the guidelines that at least the Senate has set up. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks for the explanation on the parks as well. I think that's good to have on the record as well. Well, love the Cannon Valley River, the trails, all of that. I call it the Cannon Valley Flats because I always lose my cell phone coverage, just as I'm headed back home in that flat area. But I would just say it's just beautiful, and I'm thrilled to hear that you're interested in even keeping those regional trails and parks, especially those bike trails. I have a question for you about the second project, and that is the Northfield Community Resource Center. Can you provide a little bit more explanation about what that is and how that will be of a regional significance?
Mr. Bear.
Yeah, thank you, Member, Commissioner. So the building is owned by the city of Northfield, and we sublease out to those tenants that I talked about. And so I think the regionalists of those, the senior center, for example, draws from Dundas and the greater townships that we have. The college education experience through the name of the nonprofit organization is Healthy Initiative, Healthy Community Initiative that the city partners with. And they provide these remote access for students from around our region to be able to go to school. So for example, we have a police program within that they're able to partner with Riverland Community College to have local training available there for them to become police officers, which I'm sure you're all aware that we have shortages in that area, and that's a challenge. Community Action Center provides a food shelf. We do have some statistics on there that we are seeking some bonding dollars to kind of match some of these two. To go through a major expansion, you'll be able to triple the amount of food recaptured from landfills. And we also have workforce services that, again, provide services to broader Rice County and beyond for people looking for work available. And so those are some of the examples of those. The improvements, again, I would say are like our HVAC system replacement with that. We do have some pool deck improvements within the senior center facility, flooring repair. So the bones of the building are very good. It's owned by the city, and then we have these nonprofits. Oh yeah, and then Rice County has services in there as well. So child protective services that are provided, other social service programs that serve primarily Rice County residents that we would have for that. So I can try and elaborate more, but that's a little more description on some of those regional.
Senator Nelson.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. That's a very nice description.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, Senator Lieske, that Northfield is also a favorite city among members on this committee. My grandson, my nephew are graduates of St. Olaf, as is Mr. Montress, our committee LA. So thank you very much. It's also a lovely, lovely city, even if it does share St. Olaf with Carleton.
Oh, I know. That's the hard part, right? The two schools.
Thank you very much. And with that, Senate File 4748 is laid over.
Thank you very much.
Next is Senator Rasmusson for the city of Vergas, Senate File 4727. There is an author's amendment. Senator Housechild moves the author's amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Senator Rasmusson, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The city of Vergas is a wonderful community in Otter Tail County that's in the heart of Lakes Country, known for many things, but including having the world's largest loon. And they also celebrate Loony Days as one of their big community events. It's a relatively small town, a population of about 350 residents, but on a typical summer weekend can easily have 3,000 or more visitors. And so it definitely has regional significance as individuals are coming in for the Lakes Country. The Long Lake Park receives visitors from all over to have access to the lake. And the city of Vergas is looking to construct a new amphitheater and bathhouse replacing an existing aging facility. They're asking for the ability to put to the voters a 0.5% sales tax to help cover the cost of this project so that property taxpayers don't have to cover the full cost. One unique feature perhaps of this bill is that they are asking that the tax be limited to a maximum of 5 years. They understand that the sales tax will not cover the full cost of the project, but they're going to be using the sales tax proceeds in addition to fundraising, grants, and property taxes to complete the project. And I have one testifier from the city of Vergas with me on Zoom today.
Senator Rasmusson, do they intend to use bonding for this project, or is it pay-as-you-go, or?
Great question, Madam Chair. They do not intend to use bonding for this project, and so their intent is to have the amount in hand before beginning the project.
Any questions for Senator Rasmusson before we hear from his testifier, who I'm Ms. Lammers? Is she present with us on Zoom? If you'd identify yourself for the record, we welcome your testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Julie Lammers, and I am the Clerk Treasurer for the City of Vergas in Otter Tail County. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the importance of improvements at the Long Lake Park, specifically the need for a public bathhouse and amphitheater, and the role of the local sales tax would play in making these improvements possible. Long Lake Beach is widely considered one of the nicest public beaches in Otter Tail County. It draws residents and visitors from across the region for swimming, walking, and family recreation. The park is also connected to a regional trail, which significantly increases use of cyclists, pedestrians, and visitors. Because of the combination of the beach access and the trail connectivity, Long Lake Park functions as a regional destination, not just a neighborhood park. The Vergas Community Club regularly hosts community and seasonal events at the Long Lake Beach that bring people from surrounding communities. These events support local businesses, encourage tourism, and strengthen regional connections. However, the lack of basic infrastructure limits what we can safely and responsibly offer. A permanent bathhouse is essential to meet public health, safety, and accessibility needs. It would provide restrooms and changing facilities for swimmers, trail users, families with children, seniors, and people with disabilities. Current facilities are inadequate for the level of use the park is already experiencing. An outdoor amphitheater will allow us to host organized events, performances, and community programming in a safe and environmentally responsible way. It would support local arts, improve event quality, and allow the park to be used more efficiently without impacting our natural areas. To fund these improvements, the City Council supports the use of a local sales tax. This approach allows us to invest in infrastructure without placing the full financial burden on property taxpayers. Because Long Lake Park serves visitors from across the region, a sales tax ensures that those who use and enjoy the park also help support it. These improvements represent a practical, community-supported investment in a regional asset that already sees significant use. They will enhance safety, accessibility, tourism, and the quality of life for both of our residents and our visitors. I'd like to thank you for the time and consideration and your continued support for Greater Minnesota communities.
Thank you, Ms. Lammers. Are there any questions? Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I just have two questions, either for Senator Rasmusson or City Clerk Lammers. I'm just wondering, do you have an idea how long the sales tax would need to be in effect to achieve the $285,000?
Senator Rasmusson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Likely the full 5 years. And so what would happen under this bill is if they hit that dollar amount earlier, the sales tax would stop, but most likely would go towards the 5 years. I believe that the last year of data that we have is that this sales tax would generate about $28,000 a year in sales tax receipts.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Nelson. Any other questions or comments for Senator Rasmussen? This is a very unusual request to use a local sales tax in this way, and seems to me to be very fiscally responsible. So thank you very much. So Senate file then would be 4727 will be laid over. Next, Senator Heintzeman. Senator Heintzeman brings us Senate File 4705, and this is also a slightly offbeat kind of request, in that it is a modification of a local sales tax that was implemented in 2006. And in this particular approach to those projects, it also will require a referendum. So Senator Heintzeman, if you want to explain your bill, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Yes, my bill SF 4705 extends a local sales tax for the city of Baxter. It has 3 sections. In the first section, it authorizes Baxter to extend 0.5% local sales tax for 3 projects, $51 million for upgrades and improvements to the water and wastewater utility systems, $16 million for improvements to street infrastructure and safety improvements to streets affected by regional highways 371 and 210. And the third project is $10 million for construction of a new public safety facility. Section 2, it authorizes the city to issue bonds for the projects listed in Section 1 if approved by the voters as required under current law. And then Section 3 provides that the tax terminates at the earlier of 20 years after the tax is extended or when funds are sufficient to pay for the projects as approved by the voters, along with associated bonding costs of the projects.
Are there questions or comments, again, especially from Senator Hemmingson Yeager and Senator Nelson about this project and this proposal? Anyone? Senator Hemmingson Yeager.
I'm gonna use my rookie card and just kind of, I'm curious about like the history of this, because like now I see like bonds and local sales tax kind of all in the same thing, and you mentioned 2006. So I'm not sure who would be best appropriate for that question.
I certainly will ask Senator Heintzeman to respond and her testifiers, but Baxter has a very unique location with regard to tourism and its proximity to larger communities. but it certainly, in my impression, is the hub of that activity there. And so in 2006, we permitted as a local sales tax for this project, these projects to go forward. But Senator Heintzeman, or if you would like your testifiers to talk about its location and impact on the, even though it's a very small city, its impact on the rest of that area,
Yes.
be my guest.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Hemmingson Yeager, I will defer to my testifiers.
Okay. And you have with you the city administrator of Baxter, Mr. Bradley Chapulis. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Close enough, maybe?
No, it's correct.
Okay. If you'd identify yourself, maybe you can explain why, and I direct members also to the handout of the, why this extension is necessary, and a bit about the city of Baxter and its relationship to the surrounding communities.
Madam
Welcome to
Chair,
the committee.
members of the Senate Taxes Committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify in regards to this bill. As the Madam Chair had indicated, my name is Bradley Chapulis. I am the city administrator for the city of Baxter. For those of you who may not be aware of Baxter's story, we're a community of 9,300 people, but we're located in the heart of the Brainerd Lakes region. Blessed to be positioned at the crossroads of two significant state highways, those being Minnesota Highways 210 and 371. Baxter, over the years, has become an economic hub for over 96,000 Brainerd Lake area residents, 11,000 local employees, and 1.2 million annual visitors. With the honor and distinction of being a regional economic hub, Baxter has the responsibility to provide and maintain a community infrastructure that is necessary to sustain and grow the region's economy. This requires a sustainable financial approach that includes a combination of real estate taxes, utility rates, and local sales tax. Originally authorized in 2006 and extended in 2014, Baxter's local sales tax has been utilized to support the city's regional significance of the Brainerd Lakes area, particularly in sanitary sewer, water, stormwater systems, transportation safety improvements, and other capital investments such as sewer and water utility extensions to service the Brainerd Lakes Regional Airport. According to city projections, the city will reach the current local sales tax authorization in 2027, 10 years in advance of the sunset date that is in the current legislation or current authorization. With the infrastructure needs identified in several studies and plans, such as the city's sewer water capital improvement plan, MnDOT's traffic safety studies for the two regional highways, and others, the city is looking at over $160 million of capital improvements in its infrastructure to continue to support this regional economy. Therefore, the city is proposing to continue to use the local sales tax to invest in the infrastructure to support this economy. In particular, we are looking to extend the local sales tax and seeking authorization for $77 million in proposed capital improvements, $51 million for continued water and wastewater improvements for the city's sewer and wastewater plants that service the regional trade center of our region. The total cost of these improvements are projected to exceed $112 million. The second project is continuing to invest into transportation safety improvements, in particularly including street infrastructure for our local roads that are affected or impacted by the two state highways. And the third project is $10 million for a new public safety facility to service the needs of the city and the region. To avoid disruption of the local sales tax collection already in place, the city is seeking your legislative approval of this bill so that the city can place the sales tax extension on November's ballot before our Baxter voters. We believe that local sales tax provides a supplemental funding source for regional infrastructure in a sensible, responsible, fiscal manner for projects that cannot be financed solely by the local population. I do have with me my colleague, Jeremy Vasinek, who is the city's finance director, to help answer any questions, in particular regarding the senator's question pertaining to, and again, what was the specific question? I apologize.
Well, Senator Heintzeman Yeager.
Your testimony's basically been answering it. I was just curious about kind of like the history, because this is kind of unusual for me to see. So, thank you.
Sure. For that, I would turn it over to my colleague, Jeremy Vasinek, who has been here since the first implementation in 2006. So,
Before we do that, Senator, okay. Please continue, sir, and then I have some questions about your notwithstanding clause, which is very troubling. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Vasinek, Finance Director for the City of Baxter. As City Administrator Shapoulis had mentioned, I have been through this twice now. This would be the second extension we'd be requesting. Maybe answering a little bit more to the Senator's question with regard to the bonding portion of that. The city has been in part successful with our sales tax because we have done a combination of bonds, but also used pay-as-you-go for some of the projects that were anticipated originally, which has kind of led to reaching our 20 years sooner at the 10-year point. So that has been helpful in the city, some financing of it. But I would just echo kind of what has been said, that the sales tax is a very important tool for the city of Baxter. It really is supplementing a lot of these large infrastructure costs that a small population base like the city of Baxter has to pay for on its own. Having the sales tax has been very successful for the city.
Thank you very much. If this, I'm going to ask council to help here. If this were a new project, your requests in terms of improving the regional highways would not be allowed under the guidelines we're going under at this point. So that part, which is where you have the notwithstanding clause on line 120. And so you would be looking for a way to cure that if possible. However, I think we've had another bill, and I can't remember the locality, where under the law in 2006, when this tax began, it will be important to know whether road projects were acceptable under that law, which would then have some authority over this request here. So that's my first question. And then Senator Dibble, can I ask you a question about using the motor vehicle excise tax in this instance as well, and just where that comes. But I'm going to ask Ms. Pollack about the first question. Okay, Ms. Pollack.
Madam Chair, yes, so when this local sales tax was first authorized in 2006, and then the modification and extension of it in 2014, the definition of capital project, as we discussed, that does not include road projects or water utility systems, that definition was not in effect. That was not enacted until 2021. So, and at that time, there would have been.
So there's no prohibition
At
back
the time.
in 2006?
Madam Chair, that's correct. I think the bill that you were referring.
Good for you.
I think the bill that you were referring to in your comments earlier was with Sauk Center, and they were looking for an additional amount of money to finish a project. I can't remember if it was a road project or a wastewater system project, but again, something that did not meet the definition now, but it would not have violated it at the time.
At the time.
And so what is, I guess, not clear here is whether the two projects for upgrades to improvements to water and wastewater utility systems and improvements to street infrastructure and safety improvements are kind of continuations of the previously authorized uses of the local sales tax, or they would be new projects. And that would be something for the committee to consider between those two.
And so, Senator Heintzeman, I'm going to ask, and especially for Senator Nelson and Senator Hemmingson Yeager, to go into those issues, which I don't want just resolved with a notwithstanding clause, but one that really makes sense according to the laws at the time, and then that certainly would be my opinion that they could prevail over this request, but I would like for you to look into that further, if you would. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And with that request in mind, I will ask one of the questions that was just kind of lingering in the back of my mind.
Go right ahead.
The answer might be helpful as Senator Hemmingson Yeager and I go forward. I serve on the bonding committee, so I know that we all have at some point, and there's a lot of money that comes through the bonding committee, through the PFA, for example, and through other particular of our programs to help with these type of costs. And my question is, have you considered that? Do you not qualify for that? Have you not made it onto any of those lists? We have a lot of different avenues where the state helps fund water projects, whether it be, here I'm thinking about wastewater. So does anyone here have any background on Baxter's seeking any of those other resources?
Gentlemen, go ahead.
Madam Chair, Senator Nelson, the wastewater component thereof is a facility that is owned by Brainerd Public Utilities. We have 1/3 capacity rights, so we are responsible for 1/3 of that expenditure related to the capital investments and operations of that facility. With that, we are working collectively with the city of Brainerd and the BPU Commission with the capital investments. We are trying to put ourselves in position with the PFA for these capital expenditures as it relates to biosolids, the phosphorus, and the potential nitrogen investments that need to be made.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that clarification. And then how does that relate to the seeking the local sales tax for the betterment of water and wastewater facilities?
Gentlemen, whoever.
Madam Chair, Senator Nelson, just historically, we have utilized the PFA through the city of Brainerd and Brainerd Public Utilities for the last upgrade to the plant when it was constructed. It did only cover a portion of the cost. Both cities did seek and received sales tax authorization and extension to pay for part of that debt service related to those PFA bonds that were received at the time. We do anticipate with this next upgrade to the facility, the city of Baxter's share would be about $89 million of that cost. So looking to utilize sales tax as a supplement to help pay for some of those costs for that. Typically, it's been more in the form of a little bit lower interest rate bonds that PFA has granted to the cities rather than an outright grant to the cities.
Thank you.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you. I still have a few questions, and we'll maybe dig into that
Offline.
later, yeah.
Senator Dibble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to ask about the motor vehicle excise tax. I'm not familiar with an additional half-cent being placed by a local unit on the motor vehicle. Some call it excise tax, some people call it sales tax. And so, yeah, I just had that question if this particular tax was subject to the constitutional constraints that the motor vehicle sales tax has after the Constitution was amended by a vote of the people.
Yeah, Senator Dibble, I was also very curious about that. And of course, at the time, that tax was referred to as a motor vehicle excise tax because it was separate from the sales tax statutes and no longer is, at least in reality, if not otherwise. Ms. Pollock, do you have any information that would enlighten us about why in 2006 the excise tax was also added to a local sales tax proposal? I mean, I think it's highly unusual, but might not have been in 2006. Ms. Pollock.
Madam Chair, I don't know exactly why the $20 motor vehicle excise tax was included in that legislation. It was more common in the last many or several years. I think recently, the legislature, in one of the taxes bills, I want to say maybe in the last 5 to 8 years, put a prohibition on any new motor vehicle excise taxes being enacted with these local sales taxes. So they're certainly more common, many more years ago. But I can look into the number of local jurisdictions that impose a motor vehicle excise tax along with their local sales tax bills. But the money would have been used for the same projects that were authorized in the local sales tax.
In terms of this proposal, does the authority in 2006 still exist going forward until the original projects are funded?
Madam Chair, yes, to the extent that the motor vehicle excise tax was authorized to pay for those projects. If those projects are still being paid for, then the motor vehicle excise tax would still apply. And then to the extent that the tax was extended to pay for additional projects, unless the authority for the excise tax was not also granted, it would still be in effect.
I think I understand that, but Senator Dibble,
I was going to change the subject slightly, so we're not yet done with.
anyone have any other questions about this? Senator Drazkowski, you would go into something else, okay? Then I'm going to go back to Senator Dibble and then to you.
Thanks.
Senator
Just
Dibble.
remaining on the subject of the street infrastructure and the transportation pieces, I'm going to mention, as I do, to other local units who are looking for the sales tax to support their local road improvements, which is great, and I support that. But also would just encourage you to, if you haven't yet, engage with the Department of Transportation in light of the new cost participation policy, which I hope you're aware of, because there may be some elements in this scope of work that the Department of Transportation will now pay for themselves. Some they won't, of course, but, the signal lights are a possibility. So, and some of the local side improvements are now the responsibility of the Department of Transportation, thanks to a lot of work being done that had been done for many years by local units of government and the legislature raising the necessary resources to be able to afford to do so.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to hearken back to just a portion of what Senator Dibble had to say, because I agree with him. I think as we look at these proposals, we have before us a proposal that seeks to use this authority to fund something that is essential to a community. We're looking at water and wastewater treatment, roads, and public safety. I don't think that I mean, members, think about this. So you have communities here who want to take care of this business on their own with taxes in their local community. Should we be suggesting, well, have you expired all of your efforts to seek the PFA money? So that is paid for by all the members' districts in the legislature. This is personal community responsibility happening in the face of all the different funding options that are available to them. At the same time, we have before us, not necessarily just today, but in other meetings as well, we've got proposals for trails and bathhouses and things that are not that critical local infrastructure. So rather than challenging the community to say, have you gone and checked into this instead of doing this, I think we should provide a favorable look upon the efforts in this community to take this responsibility on their own rather than foisting it upon the taxpayers throughout the rest of the state. So kudos to Senator Heintzeman and the communities here. They're taking care of business on their own. That's what they'd like to do. And I think that's a better model rather than putting the burden on the rest of the state. So those are my comments in light of the other comments that have come forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Drazkowski, for over 2 years, we have had discussions either led by the Commissioner of Revenue or by myself offline during the interim of what should be the guidelines for local governments instead of using property taxes to support local assets and especially insisting on that they have regional significance and that they be capital projects. They actually be buildings. And we have wrestled with that over and over and over again. And so when something is not a building, we're very, very careful about how that can meet, even by stretching it, the definition of a capital project. So so that's why a notwithstanding clause is needed, because current law doesn't allow it. And it's not even the guidelines, it's current law doesn't allow it. And I think we need to be very, very careful about extending local sales taxes, which are even more regressive than property taxes in most instances, for projects like this. And that's why I'm, anytime there's a notwithstanding clause of something that's in current law, not just the guidelines we have developed, but in current law, to really be very, 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 very careful and to explore with those local communities why a notwithstanding clause is warranted. And we shouldn't just say, okay, notwithstanding it, go ahead and build what you want or do what you want or put this in or put that in. That is not what we're about here. And if we had passed a general law regarding local sales tax, which the House prevented us from doing last year and other years as well. And they're not hearing, by the way, any of these bills, as far as I know. But hope springs eternal because we think that local sales taxes, or the Senate has position, I certainly do, has a very valid place, given the economies that are operating now in our local communities where property taxes simply are not sufficient to have these local sales tax, or actually buildings, in addition to the consideration of projects that are not buildings. And why shouldn't they be funded by transportation funds, for example? But we know that when local governments have a project like a community center, for example, a building, that what local governments have done is they go two different routes. They go to the bonding committee for money for a local project, and they come here asking for a local sales tax, hoping that they can get both or at least one. And I think we just need to be aware of the difficulty that local governments are having in meeting the needs of their constituents and the regional impact of the improvements that they're making in their local area that is going to affect a much wider area. And how do we thoughtfully do that? And years ago, and I don't know when we started this ballooning of local sales taxes, but there were very few cities that even explored that particular route. Why is it that so many have found it necessary to come to the legislature because their own abilities, not their fault, but just the way it is, they do not have a way forward to do this, and tax increment financing has become less and less of a tool with regard to some projects because they're public projects. And that's not, people can't use TIF for that either. So it's this narrowing of tools that then shoves them into a route forward that brings them to a local sales tax, which admittedly in an area like Baxter, Brainerd, et cetera, is not going to be paid for by the residents, but is going to be paid for visitors to those population centers, even though the city itself here in this case is very tiny. So it is indeed a dilemma for us, but I think we need to be very, very careful as we move forward and as we grant notwithstanding clauses. And at some point, we have maybe a broader understanding, once again, of changing the definition, not making it a capital project, but using other criteria to decide what warrants approval at this point by the legislature of project going forward. Also keeping in mind that in 1989, none of you were here, we passed a bill to allow much more discretion among local governments to impose a local sales tax because we were starting to get a number of proposals at that time by local governments. We put it in the tax bill, and Governor Perpich vetoed it. He vetoed the 1989 tax bill primarily because of the general law allowing local sales taxes, and we were forced into a special session that summer And the goal was take that provision out, and we did. And that has brought us to where we are today. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the background on the capital project definition. And I don't know what the definition says now, but if you go to any city in the state, I think they will tell you a road is a capital project. I think they will tell you a wastewater treatment system is a capital project. I think they will tell you that public safety facilities are a capital project. And, the discussion about regressive, well, okay, so we're going to pass let them pass a regressive tax for a road, or should they pass a regressive tax for a trail or for a bathhouse? I think we need to look at that. If that is the impediment, rather than just saying, okay, it's a notwithstanding, then we got to send them over to here or to here. Why does it say notwithstanding? Why do we have notwithstanding in the bill? It's because, and thank you for that, Madam Chair.
Because it's current law.
Yeah, apparently there's current law.
It's not my guidelines, it's current law.
And I don't know what that says, and maybe Ms. Pollack, you don't have to dig it out now, Ms. Pollack, but I think we need to investigate that and find out why our limitations are here. What does the law, is the law being interpreted properly around the definition of capital project? Because I don't know a road to not be a capital project, any circle that I've walked in the last 20 years. So anyway, those are my thoughts around that, and I appreciate the discussion.
Senator Drazkowski, it may be a term of art, but a capital project with regard to local sales taxes is indeed a building. I don't know, and Senator Dibble's not present at the moment. I don't know whether that is even an issue in the transportation committee, and really, do we want local governments being responsible for road projects? And this one here has to do with highways, so that the taxes that we already collect statewide for those projects are somehow relieved of responsibility. And putting it all on a local government seems to me to be not particularly fair. But it's not that we haven't been looking at it. 2 years. 2 years, Senator Drazkowski. Where were you in that
Well, Madam Chair, they're
conversation?
volunteering to do it.
Huh?
The local community is volunteering to do it right before us today. We're not forcing them. They're here asking to do it.
Well,
So
and
I
we'll
think
see, and we will see when these projects get in front of the voters. What if the voters say no? Then what?
Then they say no.
Then what? See what you did, Senator Heintzeman.
My apologies, Madam Chair.
Is there further discussion or any questions? Senator Nelson, did you want anything further?
I did have just one comment. Interesting discussion. I just need some guidance from Ms. Pollack, and maybe you can tell me later. But the questions, many of these questions in this particular proposal seem to run along the track that we're seeking an extension of a 2006.
Makes it complicated.
Yes, it is. But we have new laws since, and I need to know which takes precedence. So as we discuss this and think of maybe ways going forward here, which law takes precedence? Can you have an extension of a 2006 law for existing projects, but a new project would then be subject to our newer law? What's the precedence?
Well, keep in mind, Senator Nelson, that we have current law, and then we have guidelines that the Senate, or myself and others, have developed with regard to projects going forward that resulted from extensive conversations with local governments. and their representatives and anyone from any city or any county that wanted to be part of those discussions. The first discussion led by Commissioner Marquardt, because it was put in the omnibus tax bill, that task force could not, by law, include any legislators, which was unfortunate, but you can't do that in a conference committee. You cannot establish, as you know, you cannot establish commissions or task force or anything that involves legislators, because in the rules involving those commissions, et cetera, they have to all go through the Rules Committee. And conference committees should not be the way that you bypass having to take a commission or a task force that involves legislators, for which we pay per diem for their meetings, to become law. And the reason for that is that we had so many instances where those commissions or task force were established in conference committees that it got to be ridiculous, and that rule was established that you can't do that anymore. So, but that doesn't mean that the conversations didn't continue.
Yes.
So,
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll
Sure.
look forward to working with, on my left and right here, to figure out how the new law, the extension, all works together. Thank you.
It is a real dilemma, and you know, and when we pass these things here, according to what the law we're dealing with now, it's really having gone through the current law, which says, you know, a city has to submit a resolution, and we have some bills that are not accompanied by resolutions that made the deadline of January 31st. And what do we do with them, you know?
Don't hear.
And we have a very, very complex set of issues that are policy ones that are unrelated to the worthiness of a project. And that's just something that we are faced with under current law and under our guidelines, which try to respect the participation of local governments in advising the legislature about local sales taxes and what they should be used for, and what they argued for and against along the way in the last couple of years. And we're trying to be responsive to their suggestions and the arguments that they make on their behalf. So it's a long speech. Sorry about that. Is there anything further about Senate File 4705 at this point? Senator Jaskowski.
Just quickly, Madam Chair, maybe, I mean, the conundrum around how this bill is written to use the existing project and move it forward, it could be rewritten simply to let the existing one expire and then start a bill that starts under current law and goes forward. So it could be rewritten that way as well. Thank you.
With regard, Senator Jaskowski, it occurs to me that the question may be, what is the best way forward on a project like the one that's coming from Baxter? And I would not like, I think, to have a new law that then grandfathers in the old laws, as opposed to, it's a policy decision that we can make, I believe, that we will be following with respect to Baxter, the 2006 permissions, which would allow their projects to go, in my understanding, to go forward. And among the 30-some cities and counties that have requested local sales tax, this is a very unusual, if not unique. I think there's only one other among the 30-some that is referring to an extension of a law that did not have these restrictions on them. And I think that's a better pathway forward rather than at this late date trying to make a new general law on a very complicated subject. Okay. Anybody else? Good. Senate File 4705, and thank you very much, gentlemen, Senator Heintzeman, for actually bringing up this discussion. It is a very, very important one because when we want to consider what burden, what tax burden are we going to put on or even allow to be put on, and of course your city can take all this in and then decide not to have a referendum. Passing the bill here doesn't require you to, within the next 2 years, to put a question on the ballot. You may decide not to do that. We don't require you to do that. That has to be now a decision back on the local government, and then ultimately, if it does go to a referendum, a judgment of the voters. So thank you very much, Senator Heintzeman. 4705 is laid over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we have Senate File 4644. What? Senator Weber, you're taking us to our other favorite subject here, tax increment financing, and just how long, Senator Weber, should a 5-year rule go? That's my question. How much longer are you going to ask a 5-year rule to go? Senator Weber, Section 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, for Senate File 4644, the request for an extension of the 5-year rule came about at the request of the City of Mountain Lakes Bond Council. The 5-year rule expired in April of '26. When they began this project, which was originally approved in 2019, this was for the development of an apartment complex for which they had received over a $1.4 million loan. The challenges in many of our smaller communities to get a housing project put together are great. And due to some personnel changes and other things, it has taken them quite some time. Now, they have made good progress as far as getting a project started, and it might be that this extension wouldn't actually have been needed, but we all know how bond councils are. And so they requested the extension, and this extension request is for 3 years to ensure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed as relates to this tax increment financing district. And that is what this bill does, and makes that request. And certainly with that, Madam Chair, I have online a former representative and current executive director of the Mountain Lake EDA, Rod Hamilton, who can give you a further progress report on the nature of the project itself.
Thank you, Senator Weber. This would then extend the 5-year rule to 13 years.
That is correct.
I think it's a record, that request. But, so guess how I feel about it. But we welcome Mr. Hamilton If you'd identify yourself for the record, please give your testimony.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Rod Hamilton, and I'm working with the community that I call home as their Economic Development Director currently. I understand your frustrations, Madam Chair. When I was serving in the Minnesota House, as Senator Weber said, the TIF district, they came and asked for an extension back in 2021. I carried the bill in the House. Senator Weber carried it over in this body. And of course, it was granted. When I retired from the legislature in 22, the mayor reached out to me and asked if I would assist Mountain Lake in developing this this lot, TIF District Lot 1-8, and which I agreed to. There has been numerous attempts and failures in order to get this lot developed. However, I'm happy to report the current status of it. We do have a developer. She is from Mountain Lake originally, and she is investing in and back into the community in which she loves. Krista has agreed to do this. We have entered into a TIF agreement. The old dilapidated buildings have been removed. The contaminated soils have been removed. Like I said, we entered into the TIF agreement. We are happy to say that it is being staked. The site is being staked. We did receive assistance from Minnesota Housing, which we're happy to report, and they will be hooking up sewer and water next week, along with digging the footings. So this project is in process, finally. We're happy to report that. So why are we here today? When we were talking with bond counsel, they said because of the history of that lot, and because of Minnesota Housing Funds, they are good through 2018. They said it would offer them great comfort if we were able to get this extended to coincide with those funds from Minnesota Housing. Hopefully we don't need it. They said it would give them comfort in the event we would have to come back and ask for an amendment to the TIF agreement. That's where they said the extension would be of value. But like I said, hopefully we will not need this. We are developing a lot. I am confident that we will not be back here again asking for another extension. So that with that, Madam Chair, I will stand for questions.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, Senate File 4831 will be laid over.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We have two bills now, one from Senator Putnam and on behalf of Senator Port as well. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Senate File 4831, sorry. I'm looking at the time, that's all, sorry.
Understood.
While they're coming forward, another comment about 1989. The House of Representatives was going under some renovations at the time, and we went into that special session, and this House met in the Senate chamber, and the senators, guess what they did? They locked their desk drawers. So some of us who were, I don't know what the word would be, but anyway, our response was to take a sheet of paper and that we get through that drawer. And we said, what is the difference between the Senate and arrogance? And the answer which we provided them was, there is none. Senator Weber, 14, or whatever it is, 4831.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Senate File 4831 amends an original 2019 bill whereby the city of Elk River was granted permission upon election by their voters to implement a half-cent local sales tax. And at this point, what the city of Elk River is doing and what this bill does, If approved again by the voters, they would expand the usage of the sales tax to include up to $20 million of bonding for a new fire hall. And with that, and the bill, of course, changes the language appropriately to reflect that change. I have with me today a City Administrator, Calvin Portner, who can explain to you, Madam Chair and members, the regional significance of this project.
Thank you. Mr. Portner, welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calvin Portner, City Administrator from the City of Elk River. Thanks for entertaining us this morning. In November of 18, Elk River voters approved a half-cent sales tax to fund $35 million in bonding for park and recreation improvements. That was approved by a 65% margin. We're very proud of that effort. The City of Elk River, if you are not aware, is in the far northwest margins of the metro area. We serve as kind of a rural hub for our surrounding townships and communities. So it became a very strong regional benefit. We came to this committee and the House committee back at that time after a lot of preparation for those improvements. And in fact, we began with a University of Minnesota Extension Service study regarding sales tax and what amounts we could potentially recover. And at that time, we built our plan around what we thought we could potentially recover from that sales tax and that authorization. When we testified before the House committee at that time, then Representative Drazkowski had commented positively about the community engagement that we had and the amount of transparency that we had for that project. And I think there were a number of changes made following that session, reversing the process for referendums and legal authorization. So what we have done, we have completed the construction of all of those projects. It was done within 3 years. They were very well supported. Right now, our parks are teeming with tots and seniors and pickleball players, and our community center is highly used, and we're very, very proud of it. They're all gems of our community. What had happened following that authorization was a couple things that we didn't account for. One was a Wayfair decision that Supreme Court had that expanded the taxability of different products, which greatly changed our revenue receipts that we had. In fact, it's been about 30% more than we had anticipated. So we're very excited that we're going to have the opportunity to potentially pay off all of our costs in a very short order. But with that, we have another issue that has arisen, and Elk River is very methodical in their process and planning. And since 2017, we've been trying to find a means or decide the scope for a Fire Station 1 improvement. Fire Station 1's our original station. It serves the core of our city. When it was constructed and opened in 1971, the city of Elk River was about 4,000 residents. Today, we're just over 27,000 residents. So it's a very, very important station for us. It also houses our EMS services. It is currently a 6-bay fire station, and it's been remodeled twice in order to grow with our community. But as you remodel, you make trade-offs at times, and the building is not very efficient. It's also been kind of held together at times by duct tape and baling wire in order to keep it operating at the lowest cost possible, and also try to find out where we want to really go with this station. So what we have come to at this time is to construct a brand-new station that will fit the needs of Elk River residents for the next 100 years. A couple of challenges that we have with the existing station right now, besides the fact of its age and end of life cycle, equipment has gotten bigger, and it doesn't have drive-through bays. So what our able and skilled firefighters are required to do is back our fire engines into the station when they return from an event. I will tell you, we just received a brand-new $2 million aerial, and I don't feel very comfortable, even though they're very talented, to back that vehicle into the apparatus bay. So what this will do is create a safer fire station for our equipment and for our people. I know many of you are aware of fire cancers for firefighters, and this current station is kind of cramped because we've had to kind of pack as much into it to serve the community. And there's no decontamination area between the firefighters coming back from a call and to where they do their work, their preparation, or where they office. It's all in one area. So it's very important in new building construction to create the hot space and have it separated to the cold space that's safe for firefighters. Again, there's a number. I provided a handout to you, and I provided some background on it. We've had numerous community engagement meetings at this point. We've also had a number of tours, public tours for it. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Portner. Mr. Strumka, do you have anything to add?
Madam Chair, Administrator Portner had done
You just need to identify yourself.
Joe Strumka, Assistant City Administrator. Mr. Portner had done a great job summarizing the scope of the project. I would just piggyback on the regional aspect, that it does serve two major state highway systems, and our regional impact with the city of Otsego is within our service area as well as our townships. That is.
Sure. Thank you very much. There being no further discussion, Senate File 4831 will be laid over. Thank you very much,
Thank you, Madam
Senator
Chair.
Weber. Senator Putnam, we're going to revert to Senate File 4934. This is not his bill, but it is, he is a co-author, and he is standing in for Senator Fort. Let me go back to the bill. Let's see, I guess I don't have it. 4394, this bill is not a, this is not a first stop for it, so I'm not going to be requiring going through it section by section. But if you could give us a general description, and then there is an amendment to consider. Senator Putnam, would you just give us an overall description of it, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Senate File 4394 represents the Housing Policy Omnibus Bill. So in the interest of brevity, I think I'll just focus on those issues that are germane to the Tax Committee, which is specifically sections 4 through 10. There are 4 major provisions that are relevant to the Tax Committee. The first has to do with, and all 4 of them have to do with state affordable housing assistance and local affordable housing assistance, or SAHA and LAHA. Section 4, lines 4.23 to 4.24, allows SAHA and LAHA to be used for construction of emergency shelters. Section 5 makes calendar changes that have been requested by small cities who sometimes need to save up their resources for larger projects. Section 8 simply enables tribal communities to bank some of their resources for future uses. And Section 9 is an alteration to reporting requirements that are particular to tribal sovereignty. Madam Chair, those are the only 4 provisions that have anything to do with taxes, and in the service of time, I think I'll just leave it at that.
With agreement from Senator Port, we are removing, we're going to remove 2 of the, we have an amendment to remove those issues that deal specifically with those 2 aid programs and keep them in the Tax Committee.
Sure.
So Senator Putnam offers the, whatever it is, the A7 amendment, which simply removes sections 4 through 10. There is no cost to them involved. They're just the policy that's coming out of that committee, out of that bill that involve those 2 aid programs. And if any changes are need to be made going forward, they would be made in the Tax Committee, but we actually don't anticipate them because there are no significant changes to the program in sections 4 to 10. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. the motion is granted. And now Senator Putnam, your motion is to, Senator Nelson.
If this didn't get around, the A8 amendment, do members have that? Oh, I'm sorry. Madam Chair, could I explain the A8 amendment?
You certainly may.
Oh, thank you so much. Part of the bill before us today, you've seen part of that. That was the state housing tax credit bill that came to this body early in session. And I want to thank Senator Port and Holden and Putnam for including part of that in the Senate File 4394 here. There was one piece that the A8 amendment would add back into what was the state housing tax credit bill, and we had some good discussion about it in this committee. It has to do with making sure that that state housing tax credit, which has such uptake, such great need and qualifications, it just requires that the 50% of those credits are for contributions to qualified projects in Greater Minnesota as defined as the Met area, 473.121, and up until September 30th. And then, of course, if the Greater Minnesota cannot use those credits, then, of course, as of October 1, they would be open to all. And as you know, as you'll recall from our testimony earlier this year, the state housing tax credit has been so successful that the amount allowed for that, $9,900,000 annually, was quickly qualified for projects, qualified for it in a very quick manner. There were certainly more projects than there was funding to support. But as one of the testifiers said, in a much better way than I could have actually, from Greater Minnesota, who was testifying online at the time as we discussed this, that Greater Minnesota needs a little bit of time to access those, at least 50%, that's where 50% of the people live in Greater Minnesota. And it takes longer to make all of those connections than here in the metro area. And so we just are asking that we have the 50% credits up through September 30 for Greater Minnesota. After that, obviously, it's open to all. This language is modeled after what we do with the angel investor tax credit, kind of a similar tax credit. We want to make sure there's ability to have all parts of our state participate if there's qualifications. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get Greater Minnesota, all of those different pieces in place. So that is the amendment, and that would put you past, we heard this bill with what would be the A8 amendment when we presented the bill to this committee earlier in session. And so I'm just asking that we reinsert that language.
Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Nelson, for the amendment. I want to say that given that it deals with equity and respect and concern for Greater Minnesota, and I know that Senator Port is watching right now, so I'm going to say I enthusiastically want to support it so we can stick it to the cities, just because I know that Senator Port would appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
So Senator Putnam, are you supporting this amendment?
It is a friendly amendment, Madam Chair.
Okay. Is there any discussion of the A8? I'm not so sure that this is by percentages, that this is a proper way to deal with this program. It would not have been included in the omnibus tax bill, but Senator Putnam, that's my opinion. All those in favor of the A8 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. No. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. We now have Senate File 4934 as amended and by both the A7 and the A8. Is there further discussion? Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask for a roll call on this. I'd like to register my no vote to it. Several problems with the bill. One is we continue to use the tax code to fund welfare. And I don't think this is a good use of the tax code. I think it's creating a mess in our tax code by funding welfare programs and making it harder for us to understand exactly what we're doing and what our decisions that we make, how they impact things. Looking at page 3 of the bill, and I'm not familiar with the lived experience engagement exemption, but it's pretty clear there that that is exacerbating the question we had yesterday about the first decile and exempting again more income for people in the first decile to further make that first decile look like an outlier and go even higher. That's what the effect of this exemption will do. So it goes back to my first point of we're confounding, we're polluting our understanding of what we're doing here by doing this in the tax code to begin with. If we're going to do welfare programs like this, we should do it strictly as appropriations to the Housing Committee. I'd encourage a no vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll.
Senator Rust,
Yes.
Senator Hauschild,
Yes.
Senator Weber,
No.
Senator Dibble, Senator Drazkowski,
No.
Senator Hemmingson Yeager,
Yes.
Senator Miller, Senator Nelson,
Yes.
Senator Putnam.
Yes.
There being 5 ayes and 3 noes, the motion prevails and the Senate file, whatever it is, 4934 as amended is referred to the Committee on Housing and Homelessness.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Putnam, 4722.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we have before us is a sales tax proposal for the city of St. Cloud. I have with me, hopefully, at some point, 2 of my pals from town who are here to testify on its behalf. I do want to say just very briefly, while this project is for a water park attached to the YMCA in our community, which will bring tremendous commerce to our neighborhood and an army of wet, frazzled children. St. Cloud is essentially becoming a hub for this kind of activity in this area with the new Children's Museum that we built just last year. We have a fantastic opportunity to provide resources like this to all of central Minnesota. But I will add that as cool as this project is, and as the great good it will do for our entire region, one thing, Madam Chair, I'd encourage you to respect and reward is that it is a product of tremendous public-private partnership. This proposal, as you see when you become more aware, is just the last line that we got to do. My neighbors here, my friends here have done tremendous work to get great local resources already accumulated for this project. This local sales tax is just to put us over the finish line. So with that, Madam Chair, I defer to my testifiers.
Senator Putnam, if we just briefly go through the sections.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I didn't do that out of respect for time, but very quickly, if I could. The bill begins with Section 1, talks about the sales tax itself. It's 1/4 of 1 cent. For the purposes here, subdivision 2 makes clear the amount and the purpose of that tax. It's up to $7 million to finance the bonding costs for the outdoor water park as part of our local YMCA. The third refers to the bonding authority and the voter approval process. And last, refers to the termination of the taxes, that this tax will be done as soon as we hit the finish line. So it could be very, very quick. And that's how the bill itself is structured as well, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Putnam. The mayor of St. Cloud, if you would identify yourself for the record, and if you could speak very briefly, we have exceeded the time.
Sure. My name is Jake Anderson, Mayor of St. Cloud. It's a pleasure to be here, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Greater St. Cloud area identified a regional water park as a top community priority, and as a result secured about $12 million in philanthropic support. To complete funding and begin construction, the community is requesting authorization for a 0.25% local sales tax. Apologize for that spelling error on there. The outdoor water park represents Phase 2 of the St. Cloud YMCA Community and Aquatic Center, developed in partnership with the St. Cloud Area YMCA. This facility will serve area residents and draw visitors from across the region, supporting both community wellness and economic activity. The regional water park will create multi-generational spaces to enrich relationships and foster community, provide leadership development for youth and young adults through jobs and volunteerism, strengthen regional economic activity and quality of life, something I'm passionate about, enhance collaboration with local city leadership and community partners, serve an average of about 1,000 users per day with a focus on providing a safe place for teens, and fulfill a longtime community desire for an outdoor water park attraction that engages all ages. And just briefly on that, we had a St. Cloud municipal pool that closed in 2003. It was promised at the time that it would be replaced. 23 years later, we're still looking to fulfill that promise of an outdoor water park. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Greg Jake, Executive Director of the YMCA, for some additional information.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair.
Welcome to the committee, sir. If you would identify yourself for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Greg Jake, and I'm the Executive Director of the St. Cloud Area Family YMCA. And with this project here, we thank you for this opportunity here this morning. And to really emphasize, it is a regional asset. Currently, families in our community are leaving our area to go to at least 50 miles out to have these types of resources. We already currently, as a YMCA, serve a radius of nearly 30 miles with our current facility. We know that with this expansion of the regional asset of a water park, we will continue to broaden that footprint and bring a broader region to our community. Right now, the St. Cloud area, 40% of our membership and or users come from outside of the city of St. Cloud. So it's an important regional asset. It's important to our community. And we just have a strong track record of this success. And so, as Senator Putnam shared, we are seeking this to help us put us over the finish line so we can begin construction in 2027.
Thank you very much. Are there questions or comments for Senator Putnam or his testifiers? Seeing none, thank you very much, gentlemen. Senate File 4722 will be laid over. There being no further business before the committee, we're adjourned.